connection to inanimate things. A person may have a connection of minor shirk with inanimate beings. He continues to worship Allah, but he has a connection of happiness and fear due to dunya objects. Now, this is very important. This is very important. I think this is probably the most important point. You see now, every single one of us who's listening to this and will study Kitaab at-Tawheed, nobody's going to go away and think, you know what, all of my deeds are going to be for the sake of the dunya. I hope that is not the case, and I don't think realistically that would be the case, because the people who are going to take the time out to study their evening routine, etc., and they're going to study 4 hours or 2 hours, wherever it is, every single day, right? These are the best of people. These are the best of people, right? Most people come and they try and practice Islam, but they haven't got the patience to stick to learning, to stick to doing good deeds, etc. I'm not saying that they are not good, but the people who show consistency in it, these are the best of people. So now, hopefully I'm talking to the best of our community here, because we are the ones that are studying, and we are the ones that are showing consistency and doing these good deeds on a daily basis. I don't think from any single one of us that there is a person that is going to do all of his deeds for the sake of the dunya. Yes, it might be sometimes that you need to correct your intention, and sometimes you might slip up, but not all of your deeds, right? So what is the purpose of us studying this? The purpose, which should strike us the most, is this bit here, where he is saying, now this is the minor shirk, which we just read out earlier as well. A person may have a connection to the dunya and is actually minor shirk, where he worships Allah and he feels that there is an entitlement or thinking that he will get some kind of reward in the life of this dunya. That then connects him with his happiness and hope and fear to the life of this dunya and the objects within it. And this is something that we all need to purify and make sure that we get right. The reason why we do good deeds is to attain Allah's pleasure and to attain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's akhirah. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for us, to give us some good in the dunya, that is ikhlas. That the person is on the right track. But it could be that a person does good deeds to please Allah, but not the akhirah get reward, but get reward in the dunya. So I'm going to do good deeds so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help me pay off my mortgage.
Or get a car.
Or get a car. Or get married. Or get a job.
Or the cars, and then you think the car's giving you happiness.
There you go.
It and
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And how easy is it for us to fall into that? Because now you are on this pretense, that you're doing all of these good deeds. For what? Because you're doing it for the right reason. I'm going to the masjid to pray to Allah, for Allah. But that second component that we talked about before, which is that we need to seek Allah's akhirah, is so important. What's that?
So we pray salah for us, don't we? Not for
as in for the sake of Allah, to please Allah. Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah. So this is the point that I wanted to make here, which is really important. And even then, like we've said here in the yellow book and also in Fath al-Majid, they are saying that this is still a form of minor shirk.
If you are enjoying that inanimate object, be it what it is, let's say, like you said, it's a car. I'm trying to think this through now, something that you don't even think about. So you do good deeds and all the rest of it, being rewarded with a car, and it brings you happiness. On one hand, you could sort of say, I've got the happiness from this car because of Allah.
Yeah.
Not the car alone.
Yeah.
But you can easily fall into this car makes me so happy every time I get in.
No. You're going right to the end result.
No.
What we're saying here, why are we doing the good deed?
In the first place.
That's what we're considering. Anything else that you get from that, then you're allowed to enjoy it.
Right.
So we've got, okay, so now why we get married? We get married to please Allah, to seek His akhirah. And then I get married and I look for a good sister, etc., or look for a good bro if there's a sister that's listening. Right. From that initial intention, there's going to be love, there's going to be compassion, there's going to be companionship, there's going to be laughing, there's going to be joking, lots of children, and you're going to enjoy all of that. And that's going to bring about happiness. What we're saying here is that a person, a form of minor shirk that we all should be wary of, that a person is doing good deeds. He will say, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah, but there is a hidden intention to get some kind of happiness of reward in the life of this dunya. You see the difference between the two. The first one, the person is doing for the sake of Allah and to get that reward in the akhirah. And inshallah, Allah will give him goodness in the dunya. It might not be that Allah gives him goodness in the dunya, Allah might test him.
So really, in a nutshell, if I'm understanding this correctly, is when you do a good deed, whether it's religious, non-religious, whatever, you literally just stick to those two components of what make up your class.
Exactly.
And just leave it with Allah.
Exactly.
If you're going to get it, you're going to get it.
That's beautiful.
Leave it with Allah. Leave it simple as that.
That's it.
Thing.
Leave it with Allah.
Yeah. So you don't have to, like people like me, overthink it.
Yeah. But here, as it says here, but has a connection of happiness and fear to dunya objects. That's where we should, be careful. Right. So types of, now again, we've done this before, but this is in Fath al-Majid. But it's a good recap. A person only seeks the reward in the dunya and has no concern for the akhirah. There's no concern for Allah, even perhaps. These people are upon major kufr, major shirk, because such people do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't believe in the akhirah, otherwise they would have acted for it. The second scenario is just exactly what we've just been talking about. A person does some good deeds, acts of worship, only be seen of people. This is riyah. Number 3, he does good deeds for Allah, but to gain the good of the dunya and the akhirah, to gain the good of the akhirah and the dunya, he will have his reward here. Meaning, this person does good deeds for the sake of expecting the reward in the dunya, then he will get his reward here and nothing in the akhirah. And as it says here in the box, all of these are forms of shirk. A sign that a person is connected to dunya objects. Now here, this is your question, I think. You're saying, okay, if I've got a car and I feel really happy driving that car, does that mean that I am doing something for the sake of the dunya and not the akhirah anymore? Here's your answer. And this is found in this hadith of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Ruined is the worship of the dinar, ruined is the worship of the dirham. In this hadith, the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is giving us a sign. And the sign is that a person is connected to dunya objects, is that he has joy and can spend most of his time in this, whereas doing good deeds becomes hard for him. If a person struggles in doing deeds for the akhirah and for the sake of Allah, this is a sign. We're not saying that this is exactly the case, but this is a sign that a person has fallen in, what does he say in the chapter? It is from shirk that a person seeks worldly gain by his deeds. So he's doing good deeds, and he wants to get the reward in the akhirah, or even worse, that a person stops off doing any kind of good deeds, and he just makes the dunya his objective, and where he spends most of his time and his joy.
So I've got the car, when I drive it, I feel happy. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I'm not feeling so great, and I think, you know what, I need to feel a bit happier. I'm going to get my happiness by driving the car. So I'm relying on the car to give me happiness.
That's fine.
Is that still fine?
Yeah, that's fine, because that's a natural kind of happiness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed for you to have in things which are permissible. Some people have it in cars, some people have it in clothes, some people have it in food, some people have it in drink, some people have it in friendships. That's not what we're saying here. Is the good deed itself that led for you to attain that kind of prosperity from Allah, whether it's car, good health, or whatever it is. Why do you do that good deed? That's what we're saying here. Right. So when the person does the deed at the point, right, he needs to be doing that to please Allah and to gain his Jannah. And if he thinks, okay, maybe there'll be something that will happen in the dunya which is good, maybe it won't, then that's fine also. Because the reason why we're adding that element is because that is the way of Ahlus Sunnah. Some of the people a bit say, no, we should not be concerned of the dunya, and even if we live a life of poverty and difficulty and hardship, then that is a sign that you're a wali of Allah, etc. But that's not correct, because the Messenger of Allah, one of his most frequent supplications used to be, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, give us goodness in the life of this dunya. Right? So that car is your goodness, those clothes are your goodness. These are the things that Islam tells us to seek and to benefit from and to gain as a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what is your objective when you're doing that deed? That's what we're trying to rectify. So when we're going to go now pray.
Deed, yeah.
when we're going to go now pray, or when we're going to fast, or even if you're just walking down the street, you see something harmful, why are you doing that? What's the objective? To please Allah, and perhaps He's looking at me and He'll give me His Jannah. And then so I move it out of the way. Then what happens? You walk further down the road, you get some kind of good news. You get a phone call saying, "Oh, you've got a new job, or something, it's going to pay you more," or something like that. So now you can now connect the two and say, you know what? Because I did that deed like half a mile down the road, I'm getting this reward right now. I'm pretty sure it is connected. There's nothing harmful in that at all. That is because the person at point did the deed for the sake of Allah. What we're saying here, which could be a form of shirk, is that the person does the deed and he thinks, oh, you know what, if I do this, I'll pass my exam. Or if I do this, I'll get more risk or something like that. That is what we're saying that the person should stay away from. That could be a form of minor shirk. But if a person says, I don't care about Allah and I don't care about the akhirah, I'm doing good deeds so that I can gain some kind of reputation or protect us.
So I was just going to say,
wealth or something.
Let's say I'll come out the mosque,
that is major shirk.
See an old lady, she's struggling across the road, and
you're going to help.
I've got options here, so I could. The bad option, I suppose, would be, right, you know what? Everyone knows who I am. They can see me.
Yeah.
I'm going to show everyone. Look, I'll help this old lady across the road. Yeah. So that's 100%.
That is shirk. If the person is constantly doing that, that's major shirk.
If they're constantly doing that. Now, on another note, I'm not outside the masjid. Nobody here at all. But the old lady says, you know what? Help me across the road. And I'm like, oh, and she said, you know what? And I'll give you a box of mangoes when you get to the other side. And you're only doing it for that reason, a worldly thing. Yeah. Is that, obviously that's not an ideal way to do things in life, but do you fall into any kind of shirk? That is the perfect way to do it is like, there's nobody around. Yeah. Like, it's a blind lady, so she doesn't even know who I am now. Yeah. I'm purely doing this. Yeah. For that ikhlas. As he says here, that is included in that threat. This is a form of minor shirk. But the person is not outside the fold of Islam in that. Yeah. But he's just done the good deed to gain some kind of worldly reward. But if he says, now, look, because I don't want anyone to misunderstand this, right? If he says, look, I'm going to do this, I know there's a box of mangoes involved in it, right? Just like we said, I know there's war booty involved in it. I know that there's risk increased in this. If I'm going to do this for the sake of Allah, and the primary reason why I'm doing this is that He rewards me in the afterlife. Maybe I'll get that box of mangoes, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll get the box of mangoes, but I won't even eat it from it. I'll give it to someone else, a sadaqah. Maybe I'll get those box of mangoes and they might not even be right. She's blind anyway. She might have forgotten. Or she might forget. whatever the case. Yeah. So there is probably something. You don't even feel lost because you didn't get it, and because your whole intention. Because your intention is the akhirah. There you go. I'm pleasing Allah. You see what I'm saying? So this is where it is a very fine line. Yeah. It is a very fine line, isn't it? But that's what I'm saying. So people can quite easily be convinced they've done the right way, but still haven't done it the right way. So easy, especially when you've got an enemy telling you, do it. It becomes a habit, then I'll see it. Allah protects us. This is why I think this chapter here is so amazing. Right. Now the next sort of category, so hopefully we can understand it. He does acts that the Sharia allows us to share in our acts of worship. He can benefit from both rewards. This is what we were saying before. There is no harm in seeking the dunya assets. If a person wants to seek his akhirah or benefit in his dunya, this actually creates tawakkul and sabr and shukr and all these things. So now going back to the box of mangoes, the person thinks, okay, I'm going to do it for the mangoes as well, but my primary reason is the akhirah. If I get the box of mangoes, that's a bonus. That is fine. Otherwise, the Sharia, as we have seen in the yellow book here, but also on the screen here, the Sharia wouldn't have given us these kind of incentives in doing good deeds. There's so many examples that we just said. War booty is another one. Keeping family ties of kinship is another one. Being patient when you are, waiting for a person to pay you back is another one. Being the Messenger of Allah said, Allah has mercy upon a person when he trades, and he trades with leniency. So he goes to buy something and he might give a tip, or he buys something and or the person doesn't have enough money to pay you back in change. The Messenger of Allah said, Allah's mercy is on such people. So now here, a person can combine having some kind of dunya reward, but his primary concern
is Allah and the Akhirah. The best situation, of course, he does good deeds for Allah and the Akhirah, and he is not concerned about the dunya and Islam. Now here, these five, it's again from Sheikh Saleh al-Sheikh. So he's the same person that's explained this yellow book. But in the yellow book, he's given us 3 scenarios. But in another explanation that he has given the Kitaab at-Tawheed, he's given us 5 explanations. And one of the examples that he gave was where a person was talking about business. So he broke it down into these 5 categories in the example of business. And the reason why I put that there in brackets is because of the fact that, like you've said, it's so easy for us to fall into. Part of Tawheed is to learn the opposite that is in store, which is the description of Jannah. Part of Tawheed is for us to understand the reality of this dunya and how meaningless it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how He told us to seek His Jannah. This is part of your La ilaha illallah. And if a person seeks the dunya alone, or is just concerned with the dunya alone, and he has no concern in the akhirah and doesn't know anything about the akhirah, it's going to affect his tawheed and his la ilaha illallah. It's so important, and this is, I think, again, overlooked by many Muslims, unfortunately. Right, the benefits of this chapter. Number 1, man's desire for the worldly gains on the pretext of acting for the akhirah. This is precisely what we were saying before. This is the most dangerous thing, because no one really is going to look at this chapter and say, you know what, I'm not